A major energy policy shift, proposed limitations on costly regulations, and new complications in the state budget process. It all impacts the business community, and we're going to cover it this week. You're watching the Matthews Area Chamber Advocacy Update, sponsored by Atrium Health. I'm Brian Francis, and it is June 9th, 2025. Let's start with Senate Bill 266. This passed the Senate pretty early in the session and was recently taken up by the House. It includes a significant energy policy shift for North Carolina by repealing the interim goal of reducing carbon dioxide emissions by 70% by the year 2030. Now, supporters maintain that eliminating the interim goal will save ratepayers $13 billion and ensure a stable energy supply to meet the demands of North Carolina's growing economy. While the state's 2050 carbon neutrality goal remains in place, critics contend that losing the 2030 benchmark could slow progress and remove accountability for near-term emissions reductions. Beyond that, the bill has taken on new life after being completely rewritten in the House. It now creates a pathway for Duke Energy to begin recovering construction costs for new power plants before those plants are up and running. Now, this has been a major issue following the high-profile cancellation of nuclear projects in South Carolina that left ratepayers on the hook. But North Carolina's version includes new oversight requirements. Utilities would have to submit annual reviews to the Utilities Commission, showing that the expenses were reasonable and prudent. If they weren't, the costs can't be passed on to customers. Supporters say the guardrails are strong enough to protect ratepayers while allowing utilities to invest in long-term generation needs. The proposal has drawn backing from Duke Energy, the North Carolina Chamber, manufacturers, and electricities. But some lawmakers have raised concerns that residential ratepayers weren't adequately represented in the negotiations. Shifting gears to regulatory reform now, we have House Bill 402, which aims to put the brakes on costly state regulations. It says that if a proposed rule would cost the public more than $20 million over 5 years, it can't go into effect unless the General Assembly votes to approve it. And before a board or commission adopts any rule that would cost at least $10 million, it must pass it unanimously. Rules costing $1 million or more require at least a 2/3 vote. Now, the goal here is to ensure agencies are more careful with regulations that create significant economic burdens. The bill passed both the Senate Regulatory Reform Committee and the Senate Rules Committee last week. It's expected to hit the Senate floor soon. Since changes were made in the Senate to this House bill, it will need to go back to the House for a concurrence vote. Finally, let's take a quick look at where things stand with the budget, and it's not giving me a lot of optimism. North Carolina's revenue forecast has been downgraded by over $500 million, $500 million, and that shortfall is largely due to lower than expected corporate income tax collections. Now, that's putting serious strains on the state budget process. Conferees from both the House and the Senate have been appointed, but there's a growing sense that budget negotiations could be delayed. There are rumors circulating around Raleigh that what legislators plan to do is wrap up session by July 4th without passing a budget, and then potentially return in the fall to give the budget another try. Now, this isn't confirmed, but the fact that people are openly talking about it shows just how far apart the two chambers still are in negotiations. In North Carolina, the government keeps operating on last year's budget until a new budget is passed, so the practical impact of a delay is limited, but it does stall funding decisions for key priorities. The biggest sticking point between the two houses remains to be taxes. Now, the House wants to slow down scheduled tax cuts while the Senate wants to speed them up. The state's growing economy over the last decade has led to higher tax receipts as tax cuts have been implemented, but projections are showing that this trend is either slowing or reversing. The competing House and Senate approaches reflect competing theories on how best to raise revenue for priorities such as Hurricane Helene relief, infrastructure investment, and education. That's all we've got for today. We'll continue tracking these and other policies that could impact businesses in Matthews. Until next time, I'm Brian Francis, and this has been the Matthews Area Chamber Advocacy Update, sponsored by Atrium Health.